And we are back. Surveys, data, and conversations with young people highlight feelings of powerlessness and disenchantment with our current government and politics. Now, for many, voting seems inadequate for making their voices heard and their concerns valid. Why Vote sparks a cross-partisan youth movement, empowering young individuals to turn their passions into beliefs into impactful civic action. And joining me now and sharing more, we've got the peer leaders at YVote, Emmanuel Annan, and also Catrina Chen. And thank you both for joining us.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing? Good to have you. So
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm looking forward to you answering a couple questions for me. And I'm gonna start off by asking the question. When we hear about youth, I often get the saying in the street, why pay attention? They don't vote anyway. They're not really voting. How do you answer that to people who say youth aren't voting?
Yeah, so contrary to the popular belief that the youth can't do much because they can't vote, they're not eligible to vote, but I think that is completely untrue. Firstly, if you're 16 and above, you can pre-register to vote. And what that means is that once you turn 18, you can really just kickstart your process of being involved with our democracy today. And I think that is an extremely important step for the youth to take as a whole today. And in addition to that, um, the youth today can research and educate themselves about the overall political climate of our democracy today. And it may seem counterproductive to educate yourself about, for example, a political candidate and their campaigns, but that skill really transfers over when you do turn 18 and when you are eligible to vote.
Yeah.
And I think
Emmanuel,
that was
I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. Let me bring Emmanuel in and ask the question. Why do you feel it's important that, youth, young adults are really engaging in voting at such an early age?
It is a critical time for us to pay attention to the political warfare that is happening technically. And so, what youth need to do is really take a step back and do their research upon who candidates are, what they advocate for, and what change they need to make in their community. Without the prior research to doing this information and voting, we cannot see any change in our communities.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna take a look at the statistic right now, and here in 2021, it shows me here that only 11% of 18 to 29-year-olds actually took to the polls and actually voted. Um, so when we look at municipal elections, why should we see young people be so active?
So I think that's a really interesting question and it really resonates with my core values. But my main idea is that being able to vote in local elections is a great way for you to amplify your voice on, a local level or, on a federal level. And I think in these local elections and casting your vote is a great way for your voice to be heard and be seen on a greater level than your own. And it's not done often today because many people do are intimidated of voting or are intimidated by politics. And I feel that that is an obstacle that we are currently trying to face and overcome.
Yeah. So seeing preteens, I hear about preteens registering to vote. Uh, do you think that's important?
I think that is
I will.
so important.
Both of y'all said it at the same time. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so sorry, Emmanuel, but I think it's so important to vote. Like I said before, I'm currently pre registered to vote. And what that means for me is that once I do turn 18, I am ready. I am ready to go and start my journey with the workings of our democracy today. And I think that is a step that a lot of people in our youth today can take as well.
Emmanuel, I want to give you a chance to chime in on that. I know both of you said yes at the same time.
I fully agree with Katrina. It is a very important step to pre-register, especially when you're younger, so that way you do not face any boundaries when you're older, and also take a time to really understand the voting process, what it means to pre-register, and also pay attention closely to civic education. The younger you are and the more younger you are to pre-register, it's more likely that you will focus on civics and civic education.
Yeah. Well, I know both of you have your boots on the ground when it comes to talking about voting and civic, civic engagement. That's huge. Let me come to New York City for a minute. From what you're saying, how are we doing with youth voting compared to the nation?
Yeah, so Emmanuel, would you mind if I answer that question?
Sure.
Y'all are so
So for
polite. Go ahead.
So specifically in New York City from 2018 to 2022, and not just New York City, but New York State as a whole, we are one of the only four states to see an increased youth vote turnout rate. And I think it's extremely important to acknowledge that improvement as it is a step towards our goal in improving our involvement with democracy. But I do think that it's very important to have even higher goals and to reach for the stars and even increase the turnout of the youth vote turnout rate even higher. And yeah, I think that it's extremely important to firstly acknowledge the improvement that we have made as a state as a whole.
Yeah. Manuel, I'll let you talk to me about this here because you're a young person that's engaged right now and you have a heavy involvement in civic engagement. And let's be honest, when we look around, young people in civic engagement, the percentage is not as high as in other things. Sports, you could do arts, the whole 9 yards. Civic engagement, that's pretty much in the bottom percentile, but you have really made this a passion of yours. What made it so passionate for you to say, listen, I want to be involved, I want to have my voice heard, and not only I want to have my voice heard, I want to encourage more young people to be involved the same way I am?
I think the biggest thing that drove me to become very civically engaged was that my school doesn't really have a lot of clubs, and so there isn't really anywhere to talk about current issues like, yes, I can talk about it with my friends, but that doesn't mean that about I will to use them as a catalyst to help me become more civically engaged. And it has been amazing because I have learned a lot of new things about the government as well as helping out others pre-register and register for voting.
Yeah. And I do want to talk about YVote too. Please, for somebody, can you share a little bit about YVote and the importance of participating in that?
Yeah, so YVote is an organization that encourages and educates the youth about the importance of voting, how it really affects our society today. And from my personal experience, I've been greatly affected in a positive light by YVote. Prior to YVote, I didn't really care about voting and, about the youth today. It's like very general. I didn't care. I didn't see the importance. But after being involved with YVote, I can really see why my voice matters and why being part of an organization that shares a similar passion and a similar mission to me can really help amplify my voice on a greater level.
Emmanuel, when you talk to young people about civic engagement, what's the response and let me come back for what's their response. How about this? What's your message when you're talking to young people about being civically engaged? What do you tell them?
I first asked them a question about how proud they are to see the government in the state that it is today. And from their response, I guess I'll answer it. A lot of it is negative, and so I encourage them, well, if you see a lot of negatives, become the positive charge so that way we can affect them positively.
And also for yourself, Katrina, what's your message that you're sharing with people?
Yeah, so definitely, I think one of the main factors that really reframes or limits the voting rates is the fact that many people are intimidated by politics or voting in general. And I would like to share that your age is not an hindrance or an obstacle to learning more about our society as a whole. I think there are many things we can do as the youth. And like Emmanuel said, I'm building off of his ideas that be the change you want to see in the world. If you want to see changes in your local policies or your city counciling, you can go out and vote. I think it's the most direct way you can contribute to a democracy and what it really means to live in a democracy.
Well, Emmanuel, Katrina, thank you so much for being with us. Certainly, you made your voice heard here. We appreciate having you both. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All righty. Well, for more information, visit the website at yvote.org and then follow them on social media at YVoteNY. Now,